Good evening or good morning. My name is Jin Hun, and I am a PhD candidate at the KU Korea University GSIS. Well, first of all, I'd like to extend my appreciation to all the professors and staff members of the partner institutions of the SPEAC for giving me an opportunity to present my research. My study is titled The EU-ASEAN Partnership for Connecting Europe and Asia. And with this research, I tried to explore how the EU-ASEAN cooperation can play a role in connecting Europe and Asia at large. It is actually a great or nice coincidence to see that the EU-ASEAN have established the strategic partnership, but please bear in mind that this study was done earlier this year when the strategic partnership was not yet formed. So my presentation is arranged as follows. First, I'd like to discuss about the contextual background of my research. And based on that, I would like to share my research questions. Second, I will navigate how the bilateral relationship between EU and ASEAN has developed with a particular focus on the evolving approach of EU towards ASEAN. Third, I would like to highlight the major roadblocks that impeded in the past the realization of the EU-ASEAN strategic partnership. And fourth, I'll discuss about the rationale for officializing the EU-ASEAN strategic partnership in the context of Europe-Asia connectivity. Then I'll wrap up my presentation with some concluding remarks. Well, as you may be aware, the EU had devoted a sizable policy resources to its integration project with the adoption of the Single European Act in 1986. However, given that the EU had prioritized its internal integration project, its diplomatic presence in geographically remote regions such as Asia was comparatively limited. During this time, the strategic importance of Asia to the EU had culminated, especially when the EU trade with Asia overtook EU-US trade for the very first time in 1992. In recognition of a rising strategic value of Asia, the European Commission adopted the New Asia Strategy in 1994 to invigorate a region-to-region cooperation between Europe and Asia. And based on the guiding framework of the New Asia Strategy, the EU had taken important steps to strengthen its ties with the Asian countries, including the formation of the strategic partnerships with China, India, Japan, and Korea. And in the context of the region-to-region cooperation, the Asia-Europe meeting, ASEM, was established in 1996. While the EU's continued policy commitment to upgrade its profile in the Asian region led to strengthening its ties with the fast-growing Asian countries, its bilateral relationship with ASEAN was relatively underdeveloped, given that the EU-ASEAN strategic partnership was not formed at the time of this writing. And EU and ASEAN are becoming increasingly important to one another, both politically and economically. On the political side, ASEAN stands as a cornerstone of EU's dialogue with Asia. And on the economic front, ASEAN has emerged as the third largest external trade partner to the EU, and EU is the largest source of foreign direct investment to ASEAN. But at the time of this writing, again, the strategic partnership between EU and ASEAN was not realized, and the two regional blocs agreed only in principle to upgrade the relations to a strategic level at the EU-ASEAN minister meeting in 2019. Now, against this contextual background, this study poses the following research questions. First, what were the challenges that impeded the officialization of the strategic partnership? And has the bilateral relationship reached a desirable point where common values under the framework of strategic partnership can be shared and practiced? And will the strategic partnership be conducive to promoting greater connectivity between Europe and Asia at large? So in addressing these questions, my study provides a descriptive analysis on how the bilateral relationship between EU and ASEAN has evolved. And it tries to shed some new light on the importance of EU-ASEAN strategic partnership in the context of promoting EU-Asia connectivity. Now, moving on to the general overview of EU-ASEAN relationship, the dialogue relations was established in 1977, which was institutionalized with the signing of the ASEAN EEC Cooperation Agreement in 1980. And building upon the institutional basis provided by this cooperation agreement, the two sides adopted the Nuremberg Declaration on EU-ASEAN Enhanced Partnership, which was followed by the adoption of the first ASEAN-EU Plan of Action covering the period from 2007 to 2012. In 2015, the EU mission to ASEAN or EU embassy to ASEAN was inaugurated. And in 2017, on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of dialogue relations, two sides renewed and adopted the new ASEAN-EU Plan of Action covering the period from 2018 and 2022. I wanted to especially highlight that the EU, in recognition of the rising strategic value of ASEAN, had made formal requests to upgrade the relations to a strategic level at the 20th and 21st ASEAN-EU Minister meeting in 2014 and 2016. But again, at the time of this writing, these requests were not materialized. And in the latter part of my presentation, I'll share some of the roadblocks that impeded the realization of the strategic partnership. Now, I would like to discuss about how the EU's approach towards ASEAN has evolved on a periodical basis. So the first phase can be referred as the period of courtship, covering the period from 1972 to 1980. And the key cooperation agenda at this time was focused on the trade benefits and market access. The EU-ASEAN Joint Study Group, for example, was established in 1975 to explore the possible areas of cooperation, especially relating to the trade matters. The second phase can be referred as the period of consolidation from 1980 to 1991. And during this period, the cooperative agenda was placed on the institutionalization of the economic linkage. And as you can see on the slides, the EU-ASEAN Business Council and EU-ASEAN investment committees were established during this period. But given that most of the ASEAN member states were least developed countries during this period, the economic cooperation was arranged within the framework of the donor-recipient arrangement. The third phase can be referred as the period of turbulence, experiencing ups and downs from frosty times in 1991 to 1993, new dynamism in 1994 to 1996, and stagnation in 1997 to 2001. Now, despite such turbulent relationship in the 1990s, the EU recognized a strategic importance of ASEAN in implementing its New Asia strategy adopted in 1994. The strategic importance of ASEAN was well documented in the strategic paper named Creating a New Dynamic in EU-ASEAN Relations, which pinpointed EU's relationship with ASEAN as the cornerstone of EU's dialogue with wider Asia-Pacific region. The fourth phase can be described as the period of rediscovery, and during this period, dynamic changes in the regional environment have somewhat forced the EU and ASEAN to explore and develop new cooperation agenda. On the one hand, EU as an institution had undergone enlargement process in terms of the membership expansion, which brought the need to rethink its own institutional mechanism, including the restructuring of its external policies. On the other hand, ASEAN has strengthened the narrative on integration as it recognized the need to collectively respond to the external shocks, especially after the 1997-1998 Asian financial crisis. Now, reflecting this changing conditions, the EU released a number of policy papers that outline its new approach towards ASEAN, which includes a strategic framework for enhanced partnership, a new partnership with Southeast Asia, the Nuremberg Declaration, Plan of Action 2007 to 2012. The last phase can be referred as the period of elevation, and starting from the early 2010, geopolitical and geo-economic conditions in Asia have dramatically changed with the rise of China, the US rebalancing or pivot to Asia strategy, and rapid economic growth of the big emerging markets. Amidst the evolving economic and security landscape, ASEAN has placed itself at the center of the region's geopolitical topography with several ASEAN-led regional platforms, including the ASEAN Regional Forum and East Asia Summit. Against this backdrop, the EU adopted several policy papers to step up its engagement with ASEAN to underpin changing dynamics prevailed upon the growing influence of China and the US in Asia. And these include the Bandar Seri Begawan Plan of Action, Bangkok Declaration on Promoting ASEAN-EU Global Partnership, Connecting Europe and Asia, and ASEAN-EU Plan of Action. So key agenda at this point was placed on upgrading the relations to a strategic level after decades of dialogue relations. So, what were then the roadblocks that impeded the realization of the strategic partnership? Some scholars argue that the EU's approach towards ASEAN is belittling rather than reinforcing the core value of ASEAN, namely the ASEAN way and ASEAN centrality. ASEAN had been able to maintain a modicum of ASEAN centrality in the regional architecture by exercising a leadership role in creating new multilateral platforms such as the ASEAN Regional Forum, ASEAN +3 framework, East Asia Summit, and so on. But the dominance of the US and China is pressuring ASEAN to make stark binary choices, which is straining ASEAN unity and its centrality. In this respect, it can be argued that the EU's greater engagement in the region will further complicate the regional architecture. The second challenge is more related to the trade matters that concern the individual ASEAN member states. For example, the EU had granted trade preferences to Cambodia and Myanmar under its Everything But Arms initiative. But the EU launched a procedure for a temporary withdrawal of the tariff preferences for Cambodia in 2019 due to unresolved human rights and labor rights issues. Also, the EU has initiated the Renewable Energy Directive, the second phase in 2018, which has been deemed as an initiative to phase out the palm oil imports, which has been seen as discriminatory by major palm oil exporters in ASEAN, namely Indonesia and Malaysia. So then, what are the benefits and rationale for EU-ASEAN strategic partnership in the context of connecting Europe and Asia? The strategic partnership may strengthen the institutional basis for the EU-Asia connectivity. The EU-Asia connectivity initiative refers the ASEM and the EU-ASEAN framework as crucial tools to pursue a coherent approach towards Asia. The ASEM, although it's sometimes interpreted as ineffective due to its non-binding principle and the nature of informality, but in the context of the EU-Asia connectivity, it is expected to play a substantial role in furthering political, economic, and social-cultural engagement between EU and Asia. Given that the ASEM comprises all member countries of the EU and ASEAN, as well as the two non-state actors, such as the European Commission and the ASEAN Secretariat, the EU-ASEAN strategic partnership will contribute to strengthening the EU's dialogue with Asia at large through the multilateral ASEAN fora. So let's look at the potential benefits of the EU-ASEAN strategic partnership. Once again, for EU, strengthening EU-ASEAN relationship will serve as a building block for EU-Asia connectivity strategy because ASEAN is the fastest growing economy and it stands as the cornerstone of its dialogue with Asia. So if the strategic partnership were formed, although it's formed 2 days ago, the EU will be able to establish greater presence in the region. Also, the EU will be able to diversify its economic cooperation in the midst of rising uncertainties due to US-EU and US-China tensions. For ASEAN, a close relationship with the EU will counterbalance the increasing influence of China and the US in the region, further promotes external financial support for its integration process, and internalize its business environment. So the last concluding remarks. Both EU and ASEAN stand at very important crossroads. On the side of EU, its domestic and foreign policy debates about its future are underway, with consideration to internal rebalance following the departure of the UK and its future external role in a fast-changing world outside its continent. And for the side of ASEAN, the rising rivalry among the major powers in Asia is exerting pressure on ASEAN's centrality, and ASEAN's leadership role in this evolving and fast-changing regional architecture is being questioned. So therefore, the EU-ASEAN strategic partnership will reinforce one another in terms of gaining diplomatic leverage, and in particular, it will be conducive in realizing the EAC, the Europe-Asia Connectivity Initiative, and the EU's aspiration to play an even greater role in Asia. So that is all for my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.